I must have been about 6 years old when my dad got me Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2 for the PS1. Little did you know that I would spend the next 20 years pouring thousands of hours into all the games that followed, from THPS 2 to American Wasteland. Now, remasters or remakes don't have the best of reputation in the gaming community right now, so I was only patiently excited for Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2, especially given the recent releases by Robomodo, which all failed spectacularly, and Activision's recent treatment of other big franchises like Call of Duty didn't promise a great experience either. Though, admittedly, the Crash Bandicoot Insane and Spyro Reignited trilogy are both hands down good games and released by Activision, Sony and Activision respectively. Nevertheless, I expected in-game purchases, function DLC like the Revert DLC in THPS HD, and loot boxes. So I overcame my pride, bought the game on Epic, and began my journey into what I thought would very possibly be a huge mess of a game. Oh boy, was I wrong. Playing THPS 1 and 2, I actually started contemplating what constitutes a good remake. While people are usually content with remastered games having better graphics, better sound and music, slightly improved gameplay, increased performance and bug fixes, a remake needs to do all that, but on steroids. To me, every last aspect of a game needs to be remade for it to be a remake. Many times from scratch, maybe in a new engine, possibly using new technology, while still maintaining the vibe and the feel of a game released 20 years ago. And that, as demanding as my expectations may be, should be the baseline of a good remake. From the top of my head, I'd claim Crash Bandicoot, Spyro Reignited, Black Mesa and Resi 2 to be quite successful with my list of demands, though I haven't played the latter neither in original nor remade form. And I have to admit, THPS 1 and 2 does exactly that. I can't deny that my point of view is tainted by the fact that I was a huge THPS fanboy for quite a long time. I really enjoyed the whole vibe of the games, especially the later iterations. Skate and destroy, wreaking havoc on the city and doing it all while listening to hard rock and even harder punk was the ultimate dream of a 13-year-old boy from a small German town. When the first remake of the original Tony Hawk games was released in 2012, I went through the 5 stages of grief because of how shitty it was. The aggregated scores hover around 66%, but given the fact that the official Xbox magazine gave it an 8 out of 10 because of, among other things, the new Big Head mode, I wouldn't put too much trust into the abilities of video game journalists. I was bitterly disappointed and even made a shitty video about it that is still out there somewhere. So, the obvious question now is, does THPS 1 and 2 meet my standards? Hell yeah, it does. A big issue I always seem to have with many remakes, reboots and remasters is that the devs or publisher feel the need to add and remove necessary and unnecessary elements for the sake of playability or modernization. Now, I do realize that this is the right thing to do for some elements because they've gone out of fashion, but I actually really enjoy the fact that in THPS 1 and 2 there are no obviously wrong design choices with regards to elements taken from or added to the game. And that's mainly because there are so few changes to begin with. Besides the menus and customization options, which I'll mention later, there are very close to 0 parts of any given level where I'd say that they did a bad job while converting them to a newer platform. I have to admit that I haven't played much of THPS 1, and while I know some levels quite well, I can only really judge the THPS 2 levels. While writing this, I remembered that there was something that bothered me in the remake versions of the Maasai level from THPS 2, so I went back and checked it out, and I couldn't find a thing. It's literally a carbon copy, at least in its layout. That being said, I'm not saying that these levels are flawless by any standard, but the devs managed to flawlessly convert them to this new game. And this is what it's about. No unnecessary improvements, no changes, just the game. I'm not really sure whether it's actually very hard or quite easy to properly upscale levels in all their dimensions, angles, corners and nooks and crannies, but either way, the devs did a perfect job. My muscle memory from 20 years ago immediately kicked in, and at no point do I ever feel like I'm not in the right place, like it took me longer or shorter to get somewhere. In the famous words of Todd Howard, it just works. The goals in every level haven't changed much as far as I can tell. The biggest difference is that collecting money isn't an objective anymore, as it would probably mess with the in-game store. More on that later. Vicarious Visions also heightens some of the high, pro and 6 scores to accommodate for the higher scores made possible by the addition of new tricks and combo mechanics. I'd love to talk about the levels more, but I can't say more than I already did. This is not the place to assess the layout or playability or whatever of the levels in general. This has been done countless times since the first 2 games released. I wanted to judge them based on the remake aspects, and to me they feel, look and play perfectly. Speaking of looks, this game looks marvelous. THPS 1 and 2 was developed in the Unreal Engine 4, and think of Epic Games whatever you like, but I do love the look of games in UE4. Except for some minor detail issues like the skater's hair without anti-aliasing, I think the game looks really great. I would love to see a bit more detail and or resolution in the textures, but not in the shadows. I really don't like sharp edges on shadows because they usually look unnatural this way, and THPS 1 and 2 does shadows just fine. The lighting casting these shadows on the other hand is a treat. I'm a sucker for great lighting in games, and you can very easily take my mind off of visual flaws in your game by just throwing some colorful lighting and shiny reflections at me. The models, be it the skater or the environments, are absolutely fine as well. They're detailed and well modernized without losing the feel of the old versions. The only thing that really bugs me is the aforementioned hair issues without TAA. You only have the choice between quite a big performance hit with TAA and great hair, or a bunch of FPS more but frizzy hair. I would love to see an option for nice hair, but no full screen TAA. I don't need to explain the things that make games look great to you guys, you know them already, so just enjoy these clips. Yes, I know. I just said that I don't like the devs reimagining and adding stuff to remakes for the sake of modernization or whatever. But the addition of flatlands, warplans, drops and especially spine transfers is such a welcome sight I can't even begin to describe it. I mean, some of the older levels were absolutely made for this. Marseille has the spines, there's a really cool way to extend your combos on School 2, and literally every map has options for acid drops and stuff like that. Manuals are a part of the older games as well, and adding the flatland tricks doesn't really change the mechanic, in a way. Yes, you can get more points during manuals, and it's in a way easier than a manual ollie flip combo. But it's not to a degree where I'd say devs, you've overdone it. The addition of walking and climbing, for example, first introduced in the best Tony Hawk's game ever, would have overdone it. Not including reverts to connect those sick flatlands to your vert action would have underdone it. To me, it's on point the way it is. I've gotta interrupt this for a second. So, I was just googling news to find an article that actually states a story that I've heard somewhere, where the devs for THPS 1 and 2 actually got in contact with old Neversoft employees who developed the older games and asked them for the original software that managed the control schemes and input back then to convert it to modern units and schemes. I would have told you that it actually feels exactly like that. It's arcadey, quick and responsive, but doesn't feel like the weird, underwhelming feeling one gets when playing older games with newer controllers. Scrolling through the articles, I stumbled over this. Thank you, Activision. Not only did you ruin Call of Duty, a longtime favorite of mine, no, you also had to cancel a golden opportunity for another 9 out of 10 game. It could have been so easy. Just do the same shit Vicarious Visions did with THPS 1 and 2, transfer it to 3 and 4, and you would have had, as the kids say, easy money. But no. Activision announced its decision to fold Vicarious Visions into Blizzard in January of 2021. Just a few months after the release of Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2. The Vicarious Visions team of about 200 people became employees of Blizzard and no longer create games as a lead developer. Vicarious Visions was founded in 1990 and was acquired by Activision in 2005. Tony Hawk himself stated that no, there are no new THPS games, at least remakes of the classics, in the works. Activision had an extremely capable and motivated team of dedicated devs on their hands and decided to merge them as non-lead designers with a studio that produces such flawless, uncontroversial and beloved games such as Overwatch 2, the 69th Call of Duty and Diablo, the mobile game. The menus are alright. It's quite obvious that this game was developed for consoles, or at least to be played with a controller, but to me that's a given. I still get confused over the LB, RB, LT, RT menu system, but if I'm honest, that's my problem and not the game's. The customization menus are divided into tiles, a common design choice for modern games and perfectly fine. I would have loved a bit more customization in the graphics department and the option to toggle the FPS counter in-game and not only in the main menu, but those are just minor things that many other games do wrong as well, so it would be unfair to specifically blame this game here. When I first heard the news that THPS 1 and 2 would be exclusive to Epic, I, of course, was a bit mad as the old Steam fanboy that I am. But besides that old discussion, I was quite afraid of the menace that has been overflowing the gaming market for quite some time now. Microtransactions. I mean, think about it. You can see it in front of your inner eye already, can't you? The Etnies pack, the Vans bundle. Buy the Reverb bundle now and get the Kareem Cabal classic outfit and one extra level. And I can't believe I'm saying this, but there are none. Nothing. I've searched the whole game for a way to spend more money on it than I already spent buying it. And there is nothing. And it is glorious. Yes, there is an in-game shop, but all the stuff you can buy there, including clothing, decks, wheels, tattoos and stuff for your creator park, is paid in in-game money, which you can earn by playing the career mode. Now, for all you youngsters out there, in-game money is virtual money that is created by playing a game, not by inserting your credit card information. I know, it's a crazy concept, but I'm so glad to see it here. What's also great about all this stuff is that it adds another layer of challenge and accomplishment to the game. I'm not only completing challenges and tasks for the sake of completing them, but I also do it because it gives me the opportunity to expand my experience in a couple of ways. Or I don't care about any of this stuff at all and I just ignore it altogether, which works just as fine. The character creator is, well, detailed enough, but doesn't go all too deep. There's a few dozen options for hair color, hairstyle, skin tone, makeup, voice, and of course clothing. There's no restriction on, let's say, what kind of outer appearance has to match the selected voice or whatever, so that's nice. Sadly, I can't say too much about the new Creator Park editor as I haven't used it much. From what I've seen though, it's much more in-depth than the old one and you can create a lot of fun stuff in it if you're willing to spend the time. Just as with pretty much everything, Vicarious Visions managed to invoke the good old feeling of a bygone era. A lot of classics return in the music department, a few very fitting new songs were added in, and the sound design is very reminiscent of the old one. I bet you all remember these sounds. The new ones, in my opinion, perfectly capture the sound of the old ones without being too trashy in quality or just data mined from the old games. I know licensing is always an issue that oftentimes just can't seem to find a resolution, so I'm very happy to be able to skate to the likes of Papa Roach, Rage Against the Machine, Powerman 5000, Bad Religion, Dead Kennedy, Stars of Beyond, Fu Manchu, and so many more. To be honest, I don't know what I'm supposed to tell you besides this. This is it. This is how you do it. New engine, new graphics, new sounds. Same gameplay, same feeling, same levels, skaters, options. Now, add a highly quality checked sprinkle of new ideas and concepts without getting ahead of yourself, and there you go. A perfect remake. And now please, please do the same for Need for Speed, EA. No microtransactions, no new and great ideas or whatever. Just give me an HD version of my childhood and I'll throw all my money at you. Vicarious did it amazingly well, and I'd love to see more of that. So please Activision, get your head out of Call of Duty's ass and do something. I'd highly appreciate it. See you next time.